The family cruiser drifted quietly through hyperspace, sleek and lined with luxurious embellishments only one of them cared for. Grandma Vrix, seated stiffly in the control pod, tapped the screen with a brittle claw, trying yet again to change course. "We're only a day out from Zephyria," Avir muttered, leaning back from the navigator's seat. "Can't we get there without more detours?" "Zephyria is a superficial illusion," Vrix replied, eyes fixed on the flickering map, recalibrating coordinates toward Astrex. "I've told you, Astrex holds real history. You'll learn things there you can't learn sipping holographic cocktails on a plastic beach." Behind her, the others exchanged looks. Avir's wife, Zira, rolled her eyes. Their teenage twins barely lifted their heads from their holoscreens. Vrix was unfazed by their indifference. She was, after all, the matriarch. Influence, she reminded herself, held a deeper power than affection. But as she clicked in the coordinates, the ship sputtered. An alarm blared. Systems flashed with warnings. Sensors whirled. The ship careened off the hyperspace lane, pulled toward a barren gray planet on the travel route's edge. They tumbled through the atmosphere and crashed with a jolt that rattled the cabin. "Nice historical landmark, Mother," Avir groaned, unbuckling. "Look where your grand ambitions landed us." Outside, the planet stretched into a desolate landscape of rock and ash, beneath a vast, indifferent sky. The family's hopes sank as the damage report loaded. The ship would need days to repair itself. They were grounded. Days passed in uncomfortable silence, strained even more when the twins wandered out, stumbling across the makeshift camp of human escapees, a small, ragged group, hiding from galactic patrols after a notorious prison break. And their leader was none other than Skren, the infamous convict, whispered about for his philosophy as much as his crimes. His beliefs weren't exactly appealing in company. Vrix met Skren one evening when the family tried to negotiate for extra water. As she attempted to establish her usual authority, Skren laughed, a sharp, dry sound that crackled through the thin air. "So," he sneered, sizing her up with a knowing look, "the former lady of Astrex. Bet that brought you all the meaning you could swallow." Vrix bristled, adjusting her shawl. "It's a station you could never comprehend. Your idea of life lacks order, structure, decency." Skren's eyes narrowed, a dark gleam flickering. "Order, structure, decency?" he scoffed. "Meaningless words that made you feel like you weren't just spinning on some pointless rock waiting to die." "Pointless rock? Those words come cheap from a criminal," she retorted. "I had purpose, power to shape my family's future." "Power?" He laughed again, low and cruel. "Your power's as useful as a dropped data chip. You didn't control anything. You got the family stranded here, didn't you?" He stepped closer. "What good's all your precious influence now, grandmother? You're just as vulnerable as the rest of us." They stared each other down, Vrix's eyes burning with indignation. But Skren leaned in, voice as cold as the void. "All you had was an illusion, a system that broke you while you served it, then spat you out when you were done." For the first time, Vrix faltered. She looked at her family, their discomfort now tinged with fear. The twins clung to each other. Avir and Zira exchanged worried glances. The sense of her control, her purpose, felt as fragile as the cracked screens lining the control panel. The ship's systems hummed with renewed life that night, a sliver of hope. But as the family rushed to board, Skren and his gang made their move, overpowering them, tying their wrists. They commandeered the cruiser, sealing the doors and leaving the family behind, stranded on the rocky plain, helpless as their only chance of escape vanished into the night sky. Watching the ship fade into a speck, Vrix fell to her knees, her voice rising in a desperate cry. "You can't leave us here! I have influence! I have—" Her words faltered, the emptiness swallowing them. The desert's silence settled around them, vast and indifferent, as they huddled together under the yawning sky, a speck on a planet spinning away from anything they'd called home. There was nothing now but the wind scraping over dust, the dark stretching forever. Vrix sank into herself, the familiar currents of power and control slipping beyond reach, and all she could see was Skren's cold smile, the bitter truth haunting his last words. In the vastness of the cosmos, her influence had been as fragile as the life support system that now lay flickering on the ground beside her.